Hi everyone, welcome. I don't know if I can see all of you coming in, so we'll give you all a couple moments to get in, connect to audio. If you have any accessibility needs that we can meet currently as you join, please feel free to message me in the chat and I will put it in the chat also. I see a couple folks that have their hand raised. Would you like to come off mute and just share, or do you want to message me directly, or is this unintentional? Unsure. Okay, so we'll give folks maybe another minute or so. I see people still coming in. Our call is recording, so in case you want to view it later, we'll have it posted hopefully by next week onto NCSD's website. Hi, Dane, welcome. I'm making you co-host too in case you want to turn on your camera.
I can't today, but thank you.
All right, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Again, we are recording, so hopefully if everything functions correctly the way that I am intending it to, we should be able to access this in a couple days online on NCSD's website. And can everyone see my screen also? A hands up, maybe if you can see my screen. Cool, okay, great, thanks. Well, hello everyone. My name is Sonia Khan. I use she, her pronouns. I'm with NCSD. I'm the Senior Manager of Disease Intervention in DIS. Welcome to our National Internet Partner Services quarterly webinar. This is our last webinar of the year. And today we have invited Luke and Amber to discuss paid media and dating apps for prevention and disease intervention. A couple housekeeping items. I'm aiming to have the recording available online by next Friday. If you have anything that we can support with, if you need closed captioning, I believe I can facilitate this from my end and toggle it. Let me know if that's something that I can turn on if it's not showing up for you, if you would like that. There will be a couple pop-ups throughout the conversation, a couple polls, and then we'll also have a post-meeting survey. And if you're interested in subscribing to the NIPS listserv, Janine, I hope it was okay. I put your email here. Here is Janine's email if you would like to directly receive any emails that come from the NIPS group. So diving right into our conversation today, we have Luke. I'm going to say your name wrong. Luke Anemone. Is that correct? Did I say it correctly?
Correct.
Great.
Yes.
And Luke is the CEO of Commando, and I will turn it over to Luke.
Well, thank you so much. Great to meet everyone. My name is Luke Anemone. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Commando. I wanted to start by just thanking everyone for letting me be here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get right into sort of what we do. Tell me, everyone, if you can see my screen here. I'm going to just move it.
And Luke, actually, I did forget. I have a couple polls. Right as you're getting started, do you mind if I just kind of get a feel for who's in the room? That way we can kind of think about where we're at here.
Yes.
Hopefully y'all can see this. Just want to get an idea of who's in the room with us. Are you a DIS supervisor, or field operations manager? program manager, a clinical staff, a communications person, surveillance staff, program director or other senior leadership, or something else. Followed by a short answer if you are able to type in a couple words that you'd like to share. How do you currently use, hope to use, or support the use of social media or apps for disease prevention in your current role?
I think you're on mute, Sonia.
Thanks. For folks that answered something else, would you care to share your role? You can drop it in the Q&A and I can read them aloud as well. I don't know if the chat is enabled to each other amongst you all, but I will go ahead and share the results here. So it looks like about 40% of us on the call are DIS, 12% are DIS supervisors or field operations manager, along with program managers. There's a couple of clinical staff, a couple of surveillance folks, a couple of program directors and senior leadership, and a couple of something else. Let me see if someone added in here. Someone said they're a health educator and HIV prevention trainer. And then let's take a look here at how folks hope to use or plan to use apps. So someone says to make program changes and someone says they're not sure. So a pretty good array of folks on here. So Luke, I will turn it back to you. Thanks.
Sure, no problem. So thanks everyone. I just want to start out by giving you a little background on Commando. Everyone can see my screen, correct? Thumbs up. Okay. So back in 2010, 2011, I had the opportunity to work at Grindr, and I worked at Grindr for about 7 years. And it was really a great opportunity just because coming from the print world as an old school Yellow Page rep, getting an opportunity to work for a dating app was really pretty amazing. But one thing, quickly we discovered at Grindr was we weren't sure who was going to be the people advertising. Was it going to be bars and clubs? Was it going to be, travel? And it ended up really that we saw a lot of success in health initiatives around sexual health, which, being Grindr, it makes a lot of sense. So over the last, I'd say 6 or 7 years at Grindr, I work directly with a lot of health departments, with a lot of nonprofits, a lot of academic research institutes on different campaigns, really reaching out to, the LGBTQ audience on Grindr. Back in 2018, Grindr sold the business and really changed sort of how they did their business to be more on a national level, which left a lot of the local partners really with no options. And one of the first clients that reached out was actually UCLA, pretty much telling us that, hey, Luke, we're scientists, we're not marketers, we need help in this space. So at that point, I decided to leave Grindr and start my own agency with Commando. One of the biggest things we really needed to start off with was creating a digital library of people in our community that were represented. So immediately we started doing photo shoots and really ensuring that the ads were representative of the community, which was really one of our biggest things that we wanted to do, when I first started the business. Over these last 5 years, we've really been fortunate. Commando has now, I'd say, worked with about 300 different health departments, nonprofit health centers, and academic research institutes over the entire US. And we continue to grow year by year doing that and having a lot of success. So what I want to do today is I'm going to go through a couple stats in terms of what we know in terms of an LGBTQ health survey, but then I'm going to go into strictly, how did these apps look? How do they work? And then really share some stories about some success that we've had. And then at the end, sort of go into some of the next steps that you would need to take care of to try and get a campaign going for your local community to support any health initiative that you have. So let's start with some of these stats. There's a study that's done every year. It's called the CMI study. It actually started as a study that was paid for by like Coca-Cola, Delta, some of these bigger brands that really wanted to reach out to about 13,000 LGBTQ individuals and really survey us and find out what we respond to, whether it be pronouns or how we, how we interact with different brands. And after COVID, they decided to do a health portion. So I'm sharing a couple of the major stats that were discovered in terms of this survey that was done. The first is just STI infection and treatment was listed as one of the primary health concerns for our community, which is no surprise. It definitely is something, as you're seeing in your local health departments, that there is an issue with STIs, and certainly a concern in our community. 53% of cisgender and gay men that are younger on the 18 to 24 side indicated that preventing HIV/AIDS was a major concern. A lot of this is really leading to HIV prevention with PrEP, and really good to know that, the younger audience is just out there and they're really, they have a concern about HIV and they're trying to do their best to prevent HIV. On the right, you'll see 93% of the community indicate they have some kind of healthcare coverage. This is important. Some of them are government plans, some of them are just HMOs or PPOs, but it is, this probably varies depending on the geography, but it's important to see that just as a community, we're fairly well insured. And then last but not least, almost 9 out of 10 of the people surveyed in this, in the CMI study mentioned that they like to be informed of health issues, public health outbreaks, that kind of thing via social media, which is really tells us in terms of where we want to make sure we have our effort in terms of getting some ads out there. And I'm going to dive deeper into why that's important in a second. Now, we really, when I started Commando, one of the major things is where are going to be the places that we promote. And dating apps has been, based on my background at Grindr and just understanding as a gay male, using these dating apps a lot, there's a lot of advantages to being on the dating apps. The first is really a new advantage, which is privacy standards are changing. Back even 3 or 4 years ago, if you're doing an ad on social media, you could really target our audience by putting in, gay pride. You could put in certain influencers. You can do really a lot of targeting around the community to reach them in ads. And as of today, you can't. All of that stuff that Meta just last March removed all of their privacy, being able to put in gay pride, gay marriage, anything related to the LGBTQ community. Now you cannot do that. So if someone's on Grindr or some of these other platforms that I'm going to go over, we're pretty confident that they are a part of the community, and it is a good way to ensure you're getting in front of that audience 100%. Next is just in terms of usage, as someone in the LGBTQ community, we tend to use it 2 times more likely than our straight counterparts. So we're on these platforms a lot. And last but not least is high engagement level, meaning, you can do billboards, you can do radio. There's a lot of other out-of-home options, but only one is going to get you right on your phone when you're actually like your eyeballs are staring at it. And that's what I'm going to go over in terms of some of the way these ads look and how important it is to really get in front of the community right on their phone, because people are on it all day long. When it comes to the dating apps, here are the top 8 dating apps that are out there. And I'm going to dive deeper into each one. Grindr, Scruff, Jacked, Growler, Her, Sniffies, Adam for Adam, and Tinder. With Grindr, it's still the largest in terms of overall user base. The good things are it's still pretty multicultural and diverse. About 30% of the users indicated that they're African-American, Latino, Asian, or other. Keep in mind, one thing I learned being at Grindr is a lot of the stats you see, especially age is a good example, on dating apps, not everybody puts in all the information. So a lot of times if someone's like, hey, I want to target 18 to 24, you can do it, but about 35% of users on some of these dating apps don't even put in their age. So it's really important to understand some of those, tricks of the trade in terms of making sure you're still in front of everyone, even the people that are more discreet and don't want to list out every single aspect in terms of their profile. The way the ads look, you'll see on my screen, there's really 3 different size ads. These are display banners, and think of them as really having a billboard on a dating app in terms of how they look. On the left is a 320 by 50 banner. In the middle is called a medium rectangle. So as you scroll up with your finger, you're going to see this ad sort of every couple of seconds as you're going up. And then last but not least is the full screen ad that you see on the right. Now, one thing that's really important to understand is you look at this and most people would say, oh, for sure, we want to do the full screen ad. And a lot of times what people don't understand is there's not a lot of impressions or opportunity of views of that particular ad unit. So at Commando, we really help you in terms of understanding how to balance those impressions to make sure you're getting visibility throughout the entire area and you're not limited to an ad unit that might not show up that often. Grindr also has what's called an inbox message. This is more used in terms of a regional or national campaign. But when you look at it, it's actually like sending a chat. So in a lot of the dating apps, people are chatting with each other saying, hey, what's up? And they have a whole chat section, which you see on the left. And as a health department brand, you can actually send a message that all they have to do is tap on it on the left, and it opens up an ad on the right. So this is a pretty effective ad unit, but once again, this isn't meant for a really local campaign. This is meant for either a state or a couple states in terms of how it's used. But when you look at the overall effectiveness, open rates anywhere from 5 to 10%, click-through rate 5 to 10%. So really things that you don't see. I mean, average click-through rates on campaigns could be under 1%. So some of these numbers are really, really high and just shows the value in terms of the ad unit. As we progress through, Scruff and Jacked is actually owned by the same company. About 3 years ago, Perry Street, who owns Scruff, purchased Jacked, and they did a really good job of making sure that these 2 apps look identical. So the actual ads and the actual platforms look pretty similar to each other. The way the ads work is really cool. When you open up the app on your phone, before you can even get into or chat with users, you're going to actually get served an ad like you see here on the right, Getting Lucky Tonight. So you have no choice but to see the ad. And then you'll see in the top left, there's an X. So even if you exit out of it, because a lot of times someone might get a message, they wake up at 3 in the morning and they can't go back to sleep. So they see the ad, they might exit out. And then when they wake up in the morning, they'll see the Getting Lucky message on the left. All they have to do is tap that and it brings up the ad again. So it's a great way to keep that ad live for someone that is really interested in getting that information, but at the time that they bring it up, it's not maybe the best time. So that's one great thing about Scruff and Jacked is just the ad themselves are really pretty high end in terms of taking over the screen and really having 100% share of voice in terms of your ad is going to show without anybody else. As we progress to Jacked, think of Jacked as the exact same thing, but Jacked really is 70% of the users identify as African-American. So it is really important to get in front of this market, definitely at a higher risk of HIV. And, a lot of times with Jacked, you don't want to overthink it. Depending on the market, they really do best in, their biggest market is Atlanta. So, depending on the market, you want to really assess what the cost is with the amount of users in the area, because not all the time is it the best choice to just pick Jack based on the, based on the demographic. You want to ensure, you're getting the most value based on your ads, and you're also getting in front of the most diverse audience. Then we go into some of these tribe apps, which the bear community sort of would be represented by me, sort of chubby with a beard. It's a bigger community that's continuing to grow. I hope you enjoy the Commando bear with his butt crack out there on the left. But with Growler, the way that it works is they have a broadcast pop-up message, which you see here in the middle of the screen. It's really simple. It's a headline, watch out for Mpox. It's a couple lines of text, and then all they have to do is hit more, and it goes right to the landing page for them to find out more, to schedule an appointment. It's still pretty diverse in terms of almost 60% of the users are 18 to 34. You know, we do know with almost every dating app, it does skew to the younger audience, which is really good. But there are some like Growler that might skew a little bit older in terms of that the age range, which I know is still a goal in terms of getting in front of this audience. The Adam for Adam and Sniffies, I'm going to sort of talk about them together in a way. They're both very discreet, meaning on both Adam for Adam and Sniffies, you don't have to have the downloaded app on your phone, which comes in, you know, specifically handy if, let's say, you're not fully out. Let's say that you have a partner and you don't want them to see Grindr on your phone. So we're seeing a lot of usage on both Adam for Adam and Sniffies because it's just easier. It's like in the olden days when you had Craigslist and it was very discreet. You didn't really have to sign up for anything. You could just get on there and see who's on there and chat. So that's really how Adam for Adam and Sniffies works. Adam for Adam's been around for a long time. There's a big user number with Adam for Adam. The one distinction of Adam for Adam is they have both an app and they also are available on mobile and desktop web. So you can either use the app or you can go online on your phone browser and just use the web. So that's what makes Adam for Adam unique. Sniffies is sort of all the rage these days. It's one of the more popular growing apps or platforms. And what you'll see on the left is it's really like Grindr meets Google Maps. So instead of seeing people on a scroll in terms of location, you're actually seeing them on a map grid and you can chat with them that way. Their ad unit is a lot like Grindr's inbox, where you're going to have all your chats. You can send a chat as, you know, the health department or as, you know, a research, academic research, or as a nonprofit and say, let's talk about PrEP. They tap on it and it opens up a full screen ad like you see here. They click on that and go right to the landing page. So once again, it's more of a native, really integrated ad unit that works really well. And we're seeing pretty big numbers on Sniffies across the board. And I know just with some of my partners in terms of health, you know, there's probably a lot of people that are mentioning Sniffies now in terms of where they're meeting up. So something that you all are probably hearing more and more these days. Her is the largest lesbian dating platform. It's sort of the Grindr for the lesbian community. They do have a lot of different ad units on her. Traditional display, they have inbox messages, they have a native ad here that can be something more specific. A lot of times, you know, if you have, whether it's a sexual health initiative or we've done smoking cessation campaigns on her that have really done well. We did one for UPenn that got hundreds of people to respond. So whatever the messaging be in terms of trying to get in front of the lesbian community, there is a lot of usage the same way as there is in the gay community, and a lot of opportunity here to get messaging in front of that community in your local market. Last but not least is Tinder. So Tinder is the world's most popular dating app. A couple unique things about Tinder. It's about 75% male. One interesting stat is almost 35% of the younger users, 18 to 25, are open to dating different genders compared to 3 years ago, which that just tells us people are more sexually fluid in terms of, you know, what they're doing. One interesting note with Tinder is when you do ads, you cannot specify your preference in terms of your sexual preference. Meaning if we do ads, we can't say we want men that prefer men or men that prefer women or women that prefer women. You can only target based on gender and age. So we have, however, seen a lot of success. We did an MPOX campaign actually for Miami Beach last year, and I believe the Tinder click-through rate was almost 10%. So there is a lot of people that identify in that LGBTQ space that are on this platform. And a lot of times we do recommend it in terms of getting ads live on it. So that is the dating side. I do want to go into a couple other areas where we've seen a lot of success in terms of these health initiatives. Social media has been really key. I mentioned earlier about some of the privacy changes that have happened in social where you can't target. one thing that Commando's really been able to do over the last year or so is we have one of the largest LGBTQ lookalike audiences, meaning since we're doing so many campaigns really reaching out to this audience, we're able to get in front of a more LGBTQ community in terms of the ads just because of the frequency of doing these campaigns and the learnings that we have every time that we run a campaign. So where it might take you starting up your own Facebook or Instagram campaign, maybe 6 to 8 months to begin honing in on the audience, we can start doing that within a month or so really quickly, just based on all of the knowledge we've obtained from different campaigns that we've ran around the US that are based on sexual health initiatives, whether it be PrEP, testing, DoxyPEP. So really important. Just some of the social platforms that we use. I mean, we see probably on any campaign that's around testing or HIV prevention, I'd say 50% of the people reaching out come from Instagram and Facebook paid ads that we run. So it's really effective. And in a lot of cases, it's really a lot more scalable than the dating apps can be. So, you know, it's really important, depending on the campaign and the area, to have representation on the platforms. I also included, like, TikTok is continuing to emerge. X is X, not Twitter anymore. YouTube and Snapchat. But still, at the end of the day, you know, where we usually see the most success is Instagram and Facebook based on the campaigns that we've ran. Last but not least is LGBTQ Web, which is comprised of really two different platforms. One is Destinations, that is a community we go for content. So that could be Gaiety, Out, Advocate. These are places like when MPOX was sort of really on the rise, you'd see people telling their stories on there. You'd see people, you know, telling people where the closest vaccinations are. So really, you know, as things affect our community, we go to these kind of destinations, whether it be to find out something about an influencer or someone that we like in the community, or just to find out more about a resource that's available to us as a community. Last but not least is AdWords. You know, I come from a print background in the olden days, and we sort of changed from print to search really quickly. And a lot of the campaigns, we realized that, you know, we're doing a good job of getting these messages out on dating apps and on social media. But what happens when there's an Mpox outbreak and people are searching for it on Google? Or what happens if, you know, you live in the state of North Dakota and you do a search and you're looking for PrEP? So, you know, we've really tried to help our you know, clients try and get in front of people doing these kind of searches in their local community. A lot of them can be, let's say someone puts in a long tail keyword like, I've been exposed to HIV. That's the perfect person to get tested, obviously, but then to have a conversation about PrEP. So we've been able to connect sort of the dots to make sure people looking for resources are finding them. Because if someone's searching, they're just looking for, they need to be connected to the resources because they have that need. They probably could be symptomatic. So we've really seen a ton of success with AdWords. I'm going to actually get into a specific story in a second. But now for the fun part, Commando does a ton of different custom ads. Here's just a couple examples. We've done Mpox The Return, which was sort of a play we had on the Blob movie from the olden days, a poster back then. We did a Barbie ad for our PrEP clinic. We've done a lot in terms of the trans community and making sure that they're actually represented in ads based on actual models from our photo shoots that we're using. So really being able to create an ad that is fun, that's non-stigmatic, that gets people's attention and gets their eyeballs on the ad. Another important component is once you tap on the ad, where do we send them? Because as a health department or health, you know, partner, you have a website that has a ton of content because you have to have that content. But a lot of times it's not the easiest for a potential person that's looking for the resources to find. So Commando is able to create different landing pages that sometimes could have a form fill, like you see with East Central Health District, where we're trying to get that form to the navigator so they can connect them to care or to testing. Mecklenburg County, we did a U equals U campaign where they could call now or schedule to get back into care. Our fund, we know We Know What You Did Last Summer ad that we did with a lot of different partners in Nebraska around Mpox vaccination and STDs. And then last but not least, on the left is Boston Public Health, where we really built a locator for different services around Mpox, but we listed out, depending on who the partner was, do they offer Mpox vaccination? Do they offer testing, prep? So really taking that time to be specific, get the resources to the people that want it, and get them to make an action. We don't want just to tell people, hey, you should do this. We really want to connect them to the next level. So the ad dollars are spent in a way that's going to convert and make a difference in your community. So now I'm going to go into a couple different case studies in terms of success that we've had. Rhode Island Department of Health, I think I saw Erin's on the call. Hey, Erin. We did a campaign for them last year, really targeting the MSM audience. We started out with awareness because there was no vaccination in the beginning, and then we transitioned to vaccination. A lot of the strategy was really getting on, all the platforms that I just discussed, social media. We even did, Erin had the idea of doing movie theater ads. So we really tried to be very diverse in terms of the messaging. You'll see that we had a couple different ads. We even built an ad that looked like a Grindr profile to get attention. And the outcome was the state of Rhode Island ended up ranking #1 nationally in 2-dose coverage and #3 for 1-dose coverage, which was really great. And, to this day, been very successful in terms of getting the word out. Our second study is Lynn County, Iowa. We work with Heather there. I love her quote, "We're public servants with a lot of different strengths, but advertising is not one of them." Their problem was just seeing an overall rise in STI cases. With that, we were able to put together a fun ad, which we actually used one of our models in that ad just to make it fun and compelling. Over just the first month of doing the ads, they sent out 68 test kits, which was more than they had sent out previous in the entire, I think, couple of months that they had started. So really a lot of success in terms of STI. And then Music City Prep Clinic, that's where I'm at. I'm in Nashville today. Really an amazing story. In 2018, if you look at the overall number of people on PrEP in the state of Tennessee, it was 2646, which ranked them in the bottom in terms of PrEP usage among the US. They had a couple hundred patients, and you can see on the left, they had a pretty weird ad with this feeling thorny that they sent to me that I was a little bit horrified with. In 2023, after working with us for now 5 years, in the state of Tennessee, there's over now 10,000 people on PrEP, which ranks Tennessee in the top 5. So they went from the bottom 5 to the top 5. Overall, they have 15,000 plus patients. And you can see we are able to take, what they had and really make a fun knock and boots ad, which, is just great to get attention. And it also really tells the story of if you're sexually active, PrEP is definitely an option you should look at. Now, just a couple quick things on how to get started. Typically we need to know a clear definition of your campaign objectives. Is it to raise awareness? Is it to increase testing? Is it promotion of preventative measures? Next is understanding the demographic reach of your at-risk population. In every area, it's a lot different. So just understanding really where you need to reach, and we can help you with that, but it's good to just get an idea in terms of who you feel like your at-risk population is. Determine goal of the campaign. So whether it's testing numbers increasing or lower transmission rates. So we have a measurable to define if the campaign was successful. Provide us with high quality resolution logos and brand guidelines. So, typically you have a media guide that has all your logos, your colors. And once you provide that with us, we're able to take that and turn that into an ad. Securing your budget. I like to mention that budgets can vary. There's really no minimum. It's just a matter of ensuring that you secure it and that you have an idea of what that could be. And then choose your preferred start and end date. Because I know a lot of times, there's specific times based on funding that things have to start and things have to end. And we're very versed in understanding that. And then what do we provide during the campaign? First is complementary ad design. We have actually, back when we had the Mpox outbreak, we built a template of probably 25 different designs. So immediately we could send that template to a client. You can pick the ones you like. and we could get that live within a couple of days. And that really was imperative in getting this message out quick and having a big response to MPOX to ensure that it didn't get, worse than, it actually was. We create a custom designed landing page for your campaign, which I showed you some examples of that. You have monthly reporting detailing the campaign activity. A lot of the reports are real time, so you can access them and see your clicks, click-through rate, and see how the campaign is going. We monitor and optimize the campaign. So let's say that we see one of the platforms isn't performing well. We're going to move and adjust that budget and optimize it to make sure it does. And then recommendations on ad placement and content. So, we'll give you really the ideas in terms of whether the initiative is testing, smoke cessation, Narcan, fentanyl. We really have all that covered in terms of the content and can help you through that process. And that's all that I have. So thank you, everybody, for your time. And I appreciate that. And I think you might have some questions.
Luke, thank you so much. There were a couple questions. It looks like there are three questions. I think we can probably jump to those and then turn it over to Amber, because I know that she has to get off at 3. But these are, I think, pretty straightforward questions. Firstly, someone asked, can you share examples of local health department app profiles? And actually, I do believe Amber might be answering this too, but maybe from your perspective, some things that you can highlight, Luke.
Yeah, so that's a great question. It's a very tricky area though, because working at Grindr and coming from the dating app world, they really don't look great upon people setting up profiles that are not real people. I mean, they're real people, but they're not someone actually involved in trying to meet up. So, what typically can happen, it doesn't always happen, but on the major platforms, people will block you. So you'll get someone that sees that you're not real, or you're not necessarily looking for anything, and you're trying to send them a message and they can block it. So it's a great way of, doing something, if you have really no budget and you're trying to just do some some general outreach. But a lot of times, we've heard from clients, they'll just get blocked, and then it's really tough trying to recreate the profile and getting back on there. This is like when you do the ad side, it's the difference between going door to door and sending out a direct mailer to everyone in the market. Like it's a lot more effective to do it through actual ads that can get in front of everyone.
Thank you. Someone else says, is there any way to know which app is most used in an area?
Yeah, a lot of times the bigger markets, they have data, meaning like LA, New York. But if you're Lynn County, Iowa, or a very smaller county than that, they're not going to give data. But what we know is the apps really follow a path in terms of overall usage. So Grindr's still the #1. Scruff is probably #2. Sniffies is increasing to probably that #3 area, but every market is going to be very consistent. What's not consistent is if you're in, let's say, I work with St. Clair County, Illinois, where it's heavy African-American population. So the demographic's going to follow your demographic in terms of layout of ethnicity. But when it comes to users, it's pretty consistent among the top apps are going to be the same in every market.
Thank you. And you kind of touched on this one. Someone said, what have other folks' experience been like reaching people via Sniffies specifically? Last I heard, they're not willing to have health profiles on their website, which I think you alluded to a little bit.
Yeah, so Sniffies, we've been working with them now for 3 years. They actually reached out to us to do ads for them back in the day when they first started, and I convinced them to allow for ads because they don't do the health profiles just because they want to keep every user on there being an actual user that's looking to meet up or whatever the case may be. But we've seen a lot of success on ads that are going on Sniffies, especially in the major markets. So if you're in Atlanta, if you're in New York, if you're in Phoenix, if you're in Houston, even in LA where our office is, there's, thousands of people on that platform. So it really has emerged, and we're seeing a lot of success, no matter if it's a health initiative or, whatever the message is, it seems to really resonate well. It hasn't gotten to the level of being like overran with ads. It's pretty discreet in terms of the ads that run, and we're seeing a lot of success with it.
Thank you so much, Luke. Really appreciate that.
Well, thank
You're
you.
welcome to stay on. If anyone has any questions that they think of later on for Luke, feel free to drop it in the Q&A. And I would now like to introduce Amber MacArthur.
Hi.
Let me share my screen so I can share your slides, Amber.
Yeah, please. Thank you. While she's getting that up. So my name is Amber MacArthur. I work for the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. I am our disease intervention training coordinator. So I've been working with our DIS team for about 7 years now. And one of my favorite things that we do is Internet Partner Services. So Sonia asked if I could talk a little bit about how we use Internet Partner Services in Kansas, because we've been doing it for a long time. Next slide, please. So I'll just run over a little bit about how we kind of started with Internet Partner Services, the standards that we set forth for our DIS to use Internet Partner Services. And then I have just a couple of tips that we give to our DIS when we're training them in how to engage with people using Internet Partner Services. Next slide. So we started out like any good problem that we have by defining the issue. Piece of data that I had found handy for you guys that maybe would be helpful for you if you're trying to get approval for this. There was a study conducted in North Carolina where they evaluated all of the men who have sex with men diagnosed with early syphilis between 2013 and 2016. And 58.6% of them endorsed the use of using internet-based apps in order to meet their sex partners. So that was kind of the data that we took to our leadership to show them why we needed to implement Internet Partner Services, because we were missing a huge market of partners by not taking advantage of that. So after we championed approval with our leadership, we were able to put forth the motions of setting policies and expectations, because we wanted to make sure that we were protecting sensitive information. Obviously, as DIS, we deal with protected health information on a regular basis, and we didn't want to be disclosing the wrong things to the wrong people. So part of that facilitation involved working with our IT department to monitor the download of the different apps, because we have work phones. Most IT departments are not going to be cool with their employees downloading Grindr or Tinder or Facebook. So we had to get special permissions set up with our IT department so that we would be able to have those downloaded onto our work phones. We also provide annual training every year to all of our staff on cybersecurity best practices. And then all of our DIS who go through our training program are trained specifically on Internet Partner Services and the policies that we follow for that. Next slide. So first, I'm going to talk a little bit about general policies that we have, and then I'll go into more details about the procedures that we use so far as like establishing profiles at our local health departments, identifying the people that we're trying to make contact with, and maintaining confidentiality when we're collaborating with a patient through Internet Partner Services. So we have good general IT policies like most organizations, like using internet connections, creating strong passwords, not sharing your passwords with other people. And we expect all of our employees to follow those things. They're not allowed to download things without special permissions from IT. IT has to review every app or website that we're going to have access to related to the work that we do to make sure that it's going to be safe for us to use and access that for public health purposes. Next slide. And when we go to sign up for different apps or websites, we make sure that we have our employees review the user guidelines, because every community is going to have its own set of rules and regulations. We are joining that site as a user, and so it's important that we follow the rules and regulations that are set forth to avoid being blocked or canceled or shut down or something like that. So fortunately, the apps that we make regular use of, we don't have too many issues with getting blocked or getting reported or anything like that. Next slide. So whenever we set up our profiles, we have our employees make sure that they are using work emails and work phone numbers. We do not want them to ever use a personal account if they are doing this for their job as DIS. Some of the sites are going to require you to have a profile picture. Some of them are fine with it being blank. Whenever possible, we have them use our logo, which you can see up in the top left corner of my PowerPoint slide. So a lot of us just have that basic logo as our picture on the sites that will allow it. If it won't allow that, if it will let us have a blank profile, we will do a blank profile. There have been instances where we allowed an employee to use a personal picture. We don't like to do that if possible, but sometimes that's something that we do because we need to make contact with people. And so if the employee is comfortable with that and we've deemed it safe, we go ahead and allow them to do it. Same sort of thing with their name and their details. We don't want to be lying about who we are. So we use our names on our profiles, or we reflect our investigator number. So in Kansas, we're all signed an investigator number. So if we have to have like a handle, we usually make it DIS and then our employee number. We do have them typically use profile details pursuant to themselves or to the people that they're looking for, because apps like Tinder a lot of times are based off of matching you up with age and gender. And so we have to make sure that that's congruent for the people that we are trying to find, because we're not doing while the presentation before was great, I love all of the media and the advertising. We are doing this as targeted internet partner services to try and notify people of exposure and connect them to testing resources because they may have been exposed to one of the diseases under investigation. So far as networking on our profiles go, DIS are not allowed to like, follow, friend any person, any event, anything like that. We don't want any friends that we have on our friends list to maybe be misconstrued as a person that we've worked with in the past. So if a patient were to come to my profile, I don't want them to see that I'm friends with John Smith and then be like, oh, John Smith must have a disease, that's why she's friends with him. We don't allow them to have anything fun on their profiles. And then all of our privacy settings are set to the strictest possible settings, but that still allow us to message with anyone. Next slide. So whenever we are trying to identify the people that we need to make contact with, when we're doing our interviews, a lot of times the conversation centers around, how am I going to make contact with this partner that you've named to me? And oftentimes people are saying, I connect with them on Facebook, or I connected with them on Grindr, or whatever site it is that they use. We used to hear Craigslist a lot, but we don't hear that one too much anymore. So what I would usually do in the middle of that interview is I'm going to have the original patient or the OP help me locate that person's profile. That gives me the highest level of confidence that I'm reaching out to the right person, because they're the one who's partners with them. And so they're the one telling me, this is the person that I've had sex with that you need to make contact with. We do also do our own research to find Facebook profiles or other social media sites that we might be able to make contact with a patient on. This is considered kind of our second best option. One, it's a little more labor intensive, and two, it doesn't have quite the clear level of confidence that this is the right person. However, a lot of times we're able to verify that they're the right person using other pieces of information from that social media page. I keep going back to Facebook because it's one of our most highly used and highly successful resources that we use. For example, on Facebook, people may have details like their date of birth on their Facebook. So it's pretty easy to know that I'm looking for this person, and then seeing on their Facebook the date of birth lines up. So the name, the date of birth, the physical description is all matching. That feels like that's going to be the patient I'm trying to make contact with. We will also occasionally use a Facebook page if it is suspected to be the right person. This is where we really want to focus on making sure that we're not oversharing information on a message service. But we may have some reason to believe that this is probably the right person, like they have a unique name or unique physical descriptions, or we have other validating factors like the names of family members, places that they work, or something like that, that has led us to be like, this is probably the Facebook page of John Smith, who I'm looking for, because they told me he works at Wendy's, and this guy says that he works at Wendy's, and he matches the physical descriptions that I was given. Next slide, please. So whenever we go to message clients, we are only allowed to use our standardized Internet Partner Services message. So our DIS are given this message. It is readily accessible to them in what we call our field services manual. The message is always, dear, insert name here, there is an urgent health matter which requires your immediate attention. Please call Amber at my number as soon as possible. In the event that someone replies, because a lot of times they do, they'll send question marks or what is this about or whatever sort of thing they're going to send back to me. We always are supposed to reply with, because of medical privacy, I'm not able to discuss specific health information online. Please call me at this number as soon as possible. After we have connected with the patient, we will allow our DIS to have further communication on a messenger service, but not ever discussing specific disease information. For example, a lot of people that we're working with right now in one of our outbreaks, they're unhoused and they don't have, a cell phone service. So they're constantly just getting on Wi-Fi and contacting us through Facebook Messenger. So it's usually easier for us to coordinate an appointment for them as like a chat. We already know this is the person. We already know why we're meeting up. We're not saying like, hey, come to the clinic at 2 o'clock for that syphilis appointment. We're saying, can you come at 2 o'clock for the appointment we discussed? So that we're keeping things vague in case someone is accessing that message that shouldn't be accessing it. Next slide, please. So we have a lot of various social media sites that we use, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Snapchat, TikTok, X, Grindr, Tinder, all of them. Anything that a client tells us they are using, we will ask for permission to use. And to this day, I'm yet to be told that I cannot use something. So we try to keep up as best we can with whatever sites people are using. I know they were talking about Sniffies earlier. We've had a few people mention that one. It's not as popular as Grindr yet for us, but it has been kind of a challenging one to connect with people because it is almost more anonymous in our experience than the other dating and hookup apps that we've seen. Next slide, please. So generally speaking, not specific to any sort of social media site that you're using, some good advice is to ask the original patient to provide the partners page. That is going to be the most reliable and easiest and quickest way for you to reach out to that partner to offer them notification and offer them services for testing. I like to always have my work phone on me, and I prefer to locate the profile on my personal phone so that I have easy access to it. But I will also take a screenshot of it, or I'll even take a picture of the patient's phone. If they've pulled it up on their own phone and I want to be able to look for it later, maybe I'm in a time crunch or I don't have the app downloaded, I will literally take a picture of their phone so that I can see the profile that I need to go look for later on once I have the app downloaded or once I have more time to go looking for them. Another technique that we also utilize to try and help legitimize our Internet Partner Services message is we'll include like an image of our business card. You got to be kind of careful with that one because depending on what your business card says, that may not be a good idea. But if it says something generic like public health investigator or something like that, that could be a good option for sending with that initial Internet Partner Services message so that people feel like it's legit, because there's a lot of scams out there. I think a lot of us are used to being hung up on the phone because people think we're a telemarketer, and that carries over, unfortunately, into the social media world as well. So we like to try and offer something else so that they can be like, oh, well, that's unusual. I've not ever gotten a business card with a scam message, so maybe I should look into this a little more. Another cool thing that happens, you're fine. So another cool thing that happens is whenever we're telling people to call our phone numbers, if they think that we're a scam, we're able to tell them to Google our number, and it actually links back to the Kansas Department of Health and Environment website. So it helps to validate us a little bit, like as actual public health professionals. And I think that also encourages people to call us because they're able to see, oh, this number you're telling me to call is actually linked to the health department and not pulling up as a random scam number or something. Because if you're like me, I love to Google all the numbers that call me and make sure that it's legitimate. So specific to Facebook, one of the most helpful parts of the Facebook page that we find is going to be About Me tab on someone's social media page for Facebook. There is so much information to be gained from reviewing that tab. People will include phone numbers sometimes. They'll include other names that they go by. So maybe you're researching them under the wrong name and you'll find their true identity in there. They'll include their date of birth. They might list relationships like their family members, mom, dad, boyfriend, sister, anything like that, and employers. So that's really helpful for continuing that investigative piece to try and find those people. Next slide. Another thing that I like to do to try and validate that it's the right person, or to maybe find more locating information to research this person on further, is to use the search feature. Not every page is going to have the search feature enabled, but most of them do. So if you go on someone's Facebook page and click on those three little dots that I have circled there in red, it's going to pop up a window where you can click the search button. And I like to search Facebook pages for words like birthday. So maybe I was just given a Facebook page for this person, and so I haven't been able to do any like review of their electronic medical records to find a phone number or something. I might find a birthday this way. If I am reviewing their Facebook and type in the word birthday, maybe it's going to take me to May 6th when all of their friends were wishing them happy birthday. I also like to search for mom, so that may help me identify an emergency contact. I like to search for the word phone or use the area code in the area, because sometimes they'll say, hey, I got a new phone number, hit me up at 785-55555. Or work or job, those are other good terms. Next slide, please. When we use Grindr, we like to get photos of both the profile picture and the profile details, because sometimes people will change their profile picture. So if you only have a picture of their profile, it might be difficult to relocate them later. We notice people seem to turn over those images a little faster than on other sites that we use. So if we have the profile details, that can sometimes help me ensure that I'm reaching out to the right Grindr profile, because the profile details tend to be a little more unique. But if it's matching up and I feel like it's the same person in the photo, then I can be like, okay, yeah, this was the profile that I was trying to look for, but they've changed their picture. We also like to use the star. So if you star them, favorite them, basically, it's going to make it a lot easier to message them later. So in the middle of the interview with a client, I might pull up my Grindr account, filter it by age or whatever filters I can apply to try and pull up the same results that they're getting on their phone. And then I can star it so that later on, when I'm ready to send them a message about an urgent health matter, I can just pull up my favorites and message them really easily. Next slide. So this is the filter that I was talking about on the previous slide for the second there. Some people will say that they only have sex with men in their 60s, for example. So maybe I want to filter by age so that I'm just getting the men that are in that, their type, if you will. Or if they are into a tribe, then I can also filter by that. So that might help to focus the results and get the right profiles pulling up so that I can star and message the right people. Because finding a Grindr profile isn't as straightforward. You can't just search for a username. You have to find their profile on the list of profiles. Next slide. Another tip that we do with Grindr is taking advantage of explore mode. Here in Wichita, where I live in Kansas, it's not a huge city, but it is the biggest city in Kansas, which means it can be kind of hard for me to find someone's profile when there's so many users in the immediate area. Oftentimes I'm doing these interviews at my local health department, and that's not necessarily where my patient is using the app to meet their partners. So they're usually getting different results because they're searching from their home while I'm searching from the health department. So we will position ourselves virtually on the map to the place that the original patient uses the app at to improve our search results and have a better chance of finding the profiles that they were matching with themselves. Next slide. Oh, that was my last slide. So I hope that was helpful. I love talking about internet partner services. So if you guys have any questions or tips or want more information about how you might go about using internet partner services to contact people for investigations, I'd be more than happy to share. Thank you so much for letting me present on that, Sonia.
Thanks, Amber. That was really helpful to kind of just navigate through some of those more nitty-gritty details that I know often come up as we're working as DIS or training maybe new teammates. So that's really helpful. I want to be mindful of your time. So there are two questions. You kind of answered one. Should I go ahead and proceed? I don't know what
Oh,
your
that's fine.
is. Firstly, someone asks if Kansas would be willing to share their policies on DIS Internet Partner Services.
Yeah, who's wanting that? Or they can email
Great
me.
question. It says
Email me? Yes, you can share it. If you want to email me, I can get you a copy of it.
And are you still seeing Amber's email address there? If not, I can put it in the chat. Well, you can't. I don't think you can answer me, but I will put Amber's email in the chat. And then secondly, someone asked, which you answered this one a little bit, when conducting IPS with Grindr, do you run into any issues with the app and who is online currently versus who you are looking for, since Grindr only shows currently online or recently online individuals?
Yeah, that can be a problem. So we will try to open the app at different times of the day, because that's a great point. I should have included that. Thank you for pointing that out. But yeah, using it at different times of the day might be helpful. Of course, there's going to be plenty of times where we're just not successful. I mean, never going to bat 100 at anything that we do as DIS, but to make as many attempts as possible to find the profiles is what we're going to do. And if we find them, great. And if we don't, we did make the effort to contact the person in the way that we knew how. But yeah, that's a good point, to try using it at different times of the day so that maybe you're finding different profiles, because they can come online and go off offline.
And it looks like someone added, sometimes I will flex my work hours and do some searching on a Saturday night for like a half hour during lunch or on another day, to kind of just reaffirm also what you're adding.
Yeah.
And then someone also said, it'll be useful to send a copy of this presentation for references. Amber has shared it with me, so I will be posting these details along with the recording once we wrap up next week. Any other questions for Amber? Yes, access to slides and recording will both be available, hopefully within the next week. So by next Friday, hopefully. But if not, I will leave the chat open. I will no longer keep Amber, but thank you so much, Amber. Thank you, Luke, so much. Luke has also shared their contact information if anyone has any further questions. Their email is luke@runwithcommando.com, and they've also listed their phone number. So feel free to reach out directly to Luke, and then I can also share Amber's email address here in the chat. And I want to thank everyone again for joining us. As you exit, there will be a post meeting survey if you don't mind filling that out, just a couple questions. So thank you all so much.
Thanks again.